Joining us on News Talk 710 KURV from the local Border Patrol office is the Chief, Rosendo Hinojosa. Rosie, how you doing this morning?
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. So I saw a few days back that you guys are quickly trying to improvise solutions to try to process this huge influx of illegal immigrants that we've seen of late. And it seems that every weekend you guys are getting slammed, and the Central Processing Center in McAllen is always full and has been full for every weekend. So you're using your Weslaco station now to lateral some of these folks out there and get them processed quickly. Is Weslaco not going to be the main processing center, or is it just going to complement what you're doing in McAllen?
It's going to complement. Actually, the plan is to have McAllen and Weslaco serve as kind of centralized hubs, since we don't have one of our stations that's large enough to do it all at a one-stop shop, if you will. So this is the beginning stages of transitioning from the traditional way of processing to a new way that's streamlined and more efficient, so that we can ensure that we have the least amount of people processing and the maximum amount out in the field.
Are you calling the folks that you receive? Okay, let's send the OTMs, the other than Mexicans, to Weslaco, or do we keep them in McAllen and send the Mexicans over there? How are you guys trying to make it faster?
Well, it'll be both of those populations. And it's the structure. It's like a supply chain, if you will. So it's the logistical processing from one station to the other. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in processing. So transportation, obviously the arrest transportation to the facility, and then the intake, the fingerprinting, the photographing, the identification, putting them on into the system, and then the actual processing. And then after we're done processing, equally important is our ability to transfer that person over to the ICRO.
How long does it take to process a person? Because I know it probably takes a different amount of time based on where they come from.
Well, actually, it's more tied to the skill set of the employees. So we've got some employees that don't process as regular as others, and some that process more often. So anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, 3 hours. It just depends on the skill.
Oh, so you got your veterans that are working peak times now, the weekends, Friday, Saturday type of stuff.
Well, we're 7/24 operations, so it's 24-hour processing that we have to undertake because of the apprehensions and the flow, if you will, number of arrests that we make, and then you got the detention issues and civil rights concerns and things of those sorts. So we try to process them as soon as we can to transfer them into a permanent detention center. We are not a permanent detention center, so ours is just like a city jail, where you arrest somebody, you bring them in, you book them, and then you transfer them over to a sheriff's office, if you will. So the same concept.
The sheriff's office for you would be who is that? Where do you send folks that have been processed?
Well, that's up to ERO to decide. But
who is ERO? Who is
the Enforcement Removal Operations, ICE.
Okay.
So that's usually at the Los Fresnos, which is called the Portable Detention Center.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they distribute them from there, throughout the United States, depending on where they have the bed.
Yeah, that's at that point is when we hear that folks are being released locally at the bus station or being connected to other people in the interior.
We've seen some of those stories in the news.
Yeah. Or being sent back, depending on what they determine is necessary.
Right.
And on the weekends, you're still seeing that huge influx of illegal immigrants coming over on the weekends, and
that's still the trend. Yes.
Yeah, and by how much is it? 50% increase? Any way to peg? Give folks an idea.
Sometimes it's about that.
Yeah, you got 200. You got the ability to process 270 people in McAllen. How much more will the Weslaco Center allow you to? How many more will the Weslaco Center allow you to process?
Well, that's not accurate. I mean, the ability to process is different than the ability to detain. So.
Okay.
I think those two stations are about equal as far as the detention capacity. How many we process just depends on how quick we can get them processed by the crew that's there.
Joining us on News Talk 710 KURV, he's the chief of the local Border Patrol office here in the Valley, Rosendo Hinojosa. The immigrants that are coming over, Rosendo, what are they telling you? Why are they coming right now? Why are we seeing such a huge influx?
Well, it's pretty much in line with the traditional reasons. The economy in their countries is not as good as the economy in our country. There's a lot of family reunification.
But that's always been the case. You know what I mean? Is
Yes.
the economy improving here, and it's a greater work opportunity, or are they watching the immigration debate up in D.C.? Hey, this is the chance we got to go because we're going to get amnesty right now, or they're expecting to be released. What are they saying?
Well, that could be one of the contributors too. So it just depends on the individual. And when I go to the stations, I try to talk to them, and a lot of times it's my brother sponsoring me. He's in San Diego working in construction, so
yeah,
that's what I want to do. So a lot of the times they're being sponsored already by a relative in the United States. And one of the things that we try to communicate into Central America, which is our number one contributor of OTMs, if you will, is that there's a lot of risk associated with entering the country illegally, and ultimately could lead to their death. So we try to discourage illegal immigration to the extent that we can, but that's an individual decision that's made by that individual, and unfortunately, a lot of times they make the decision to come in illegally, and then it ends in their
demise. Prior to this new influx that we've been seeing, it used to be majority Mexican Americans, right? I'm sorry, it used to be majority Mexicans.
Correct.
And now it's like 50-50 is what you're saying, right?
Actually, it's a little bit more than 50% OTMs now.
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't seen a significant uptick in Mexican national entries, but we are seeing it in the OTM population.
Knowing how dry it is and how nasty the heat is down here, you guys, what is the special unit? Borstar, right? Is that the
correct?
Okay, Borstar are the folks who are trained at Border Patrol to go and save people out in like in ranch country when they get in trouble, or the river as well, right? So you guys are ramping up for likely a very busy season here pretty soon.
Yes, and Borstar is the border search, trauma, and rescue team that we have that specialize. They're specially trained individuals in tracking, and then once they find the individual, they're also trained to administer emergency medical services, if you will, just to stabilize and then transfer them over to an EMT, if you will.
Chief,
so, they do great work.
Yeah, Chief, thanks for your time as always. Thank you for making yourself available to us. That's Chief Rosendo Hinojosa. He is with the Border Patrol office here in the Rio Grande Valley.